have a degree of familiarity with the puzzle so that this can now proceed a lot quicker. For instance, I sort of have a feel for which places go where, and I think I can more easily and quickly put them in. So, for instance, move this over here. Now this doesn't fit over here so nice. As you can see, there's a little bit of a cleft there. And I know from these ghost puzzles, you simply can't ignore that. This fits flush, so this fits nice. You can even see a little raggedness to the border here. So now, I'm going to just keep going, but a little faster. The thing about starting to get a mastery with these puzzles is something happens at the very end, which you'll find out. So anyway, all of that I did was tricky, but that's not the hardest part of this puzzle. And I know I keep alluding to that, but that hardest part that I keep talking about, that's on its way, that's coming. Like I say, although it was tricky, I knew what I had to do, and I knew what I was looking for. And it just took me a little while, but it's just a matter of time. So now I'm looking for the one that comes over to here, which I think maybe these guys. And bring this back. Nope, it's not that one, so it must be this. So we'll turn this down, turn and turn. Now, what I have to bear in mind that I'm not at the moment, which I probably should, is the orientation of these centers. So I'm going to actually orient them at least within 180 degrees of where they're supposed to be. And turn. Same thing with this. This is oriented only within 90 degrees of where it's supposed to be, or more. I want to get it within 180 degrees. So turn here. Doesn't really matter if it's exact right now. And turn. Now, I should pause right now and think to myself, maybe as I'm putting these in, I should find the correct centerpiece here. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take this. This belongs here, but you can see this is oriented wrong. So as I'm thinking about it, maybe a good idea if I move this down. And let's see if I can find where this belongs with. So I'm going to move this over here. Will this find a home with this edge here? And it doesn't. You can see it doesn't have any home with this here at all. So I'm going to say that that's not the proper center. I'm going to see if I can't find what could be the proper center. Maybe this guy here. No, I think it's something that comes out maybe like this center. So I'm simply going to move this in. Then double turn it and bring it down. One, two, and let's see if this fits. That way I can assemble both layers and you can see, bang, that has a nice fit over there. So nice a fit that it's almost fitting even when it's not off center. This is what it's like when it's off center. This will easily be pulled back when it's time to solve the whole thing. Just like that. Now before I start correlating it with these centers, I'm going to have to take these edges and I'm going to put them up over here. Let's at least coordinate this correctly here. 1, 2. Bump this out of the way. Turn this in like this. Turn it here. And 1, 2. Okay. Alright, so these are at least within 180 degrees of where they need to be. Now the next step, before I put the corners in and before I correlate these, is I have to get these edges out of the middle layer. Out of the middle layer here. And the reason is because of what happened here. What happened here is I pulled this one out. 1, 2, this is in, this is in, this is in. I got to find the right ones here. So let's see if I can easily and quickly do that. That's good over here. And that's good over here. Okay. So I got to get this up here. It doesn't matter to me if it's in the right place. This is in the right place over here. This is not, but that doesn't really matter. I'm going to move this down here to exchange with this. So turn, 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 turn. This is just the simple middle edge algorithm from beginner's method, coming back for a high degree of use here. And now we turn. Okay, so the end result is this is it, up, this is up, this is up, and this is up. Now that I've done that, I can start moving these sections around purely as needed. So this is where it needs to be, so that's good. Coming over here, what's supposed to be with this? Well, it's obviously not this. Maybe it's this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double turn this, 1, 2, and see if I can find a center here, or center layer here that can correlate with this. Not this, how about this? This correlates really nicely over here. So I'm going to say that that belongs there. So we're going to turn this one up. I keep having to go back and forth between being off center and not being off center, so that makes alignment a challenge because I have to keep realigning it. Okay. And 1, 2. Okay, so this is good. This is good. Now, how about this? Did I get lucky with this edge over here? And as I turn it, although I'm snagging a bit here, so I gotta unsnag myself. This correlates here, this correlates here, this correlates here, this correlates here. Okay, so I've got this edge back, and as you can see, I even have a corner piece here that correlates with that. So I like all of these edges the way that they are. Now I need to correlate this layer. So let's see what here actually correlates. Okay, put this in here, and this has a nice home over here. This obviously does not. This doesn't. This does. Actually, this does. So this layer is okay here. This layer is okay here. This is not. And this is not. So let's see if we can correlate these with each other. Let's take them back on center. All I need to do is associate one side and the rest will follow. And it's kind of limited with what needs to come into here. I know it's not in this bottom layer because this is spoken for, this is spoken for, and this surely wouldn't play any role, which means whatever has to be with this side here next to this, whatever layer goes with this must be up here, and it looks like it might even be this. So I'm going to put one in here that absolutely could not possibly be the right one, which is this. There's no way this is going to be just above this layer. And I'm going to turn this twice. So this is how to solve this without knowing any of the colors. It's all based on shape. 1, 2. Sometimes I feel like I'm assembling a jigsaw puzzle with no picture. Okay, and once we've done that, now I'm going to turn this one in and see if it correlates. Nope. Just going to keep moving things. Now this one is a good contender. I'm going to say that it's probably the right one. So I'm going to take this here and I'll move this in. Now the good news I can easily and quickly check that with the other layers. I've gotten this right back to where we were before. Okay, so now I'm going to move this in and then move this into the proper center, and automatically the other layers should be fine. This one we haven't gotten yet, and this one is fine over here. So now all we have from this other layer is here. So obviously this isn't the hard part. Okay, move this here. And move this just off center over here. Okay, so what do we think correlates? Well, it's got to be up in this layer over here. Is it this layer here? Well, let's go find one once again that we know couldn't possibly be it. Like maybe this guy here. Could this correlate with it? Well, it's not impossible. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, I do think it's safe to assume it's not this one. So as it's safe to assume it's not this one, let's now pull this up and see what we can find. 1, 2. Okay, so I'm looking for a layer here that correlates with this, and it's got to be here somewhere. Well, let's try. move this up a tad bit so you're getting it all. Here, nope. So you can see why I had to move all of these made layers up. Now, I didn't have to do that. I could have done this later and just reduced these later, but I figure it's easy enough to do. Move this in. How about this? This is a contender, but it doesn't seem to really completely match up. So I'm going to let that one go. This one's got to be it. This one I got a good feeling about. So I'm going to move this down and then see how it correlates with the rest. 1, 2. Well, that moved pretty smooth. All right, now I'm going to correlate what should be all of our layers here. So you can see these two are good, these two are good, these two are good, and these two are good. So we've got the centers of these layers. Now we're in with the middle layer, and once again, the middle layers here, they have to be correct in relation to each other. So, while this one could end up here, or it could end up here, 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 these have to be in the proper place. We just don't know if they're turned upside down or not. One of these must be right side up. So it's a matter of turning these around to see if any of these correlate. And this one? A little bit, but no, not really. This one, nope. This one, nope. This one, nope. Okay, so everything appears to be, well, over here it appears to be upside down. So let's just keep going. This looks pretty good. This looks pretty good, although it could maybe be better. Okay, what if I were to say, I'm going to assume for a second that this is right, right layer. If that's the case, then turning this upside down, this sheet upside down, this bar upside down, should correlate with this. So let's move this over here, and here's how I'm going to do that. Here's how I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to match up my edges here, match up my corners, match up my centers, and now I'm going to go ahead and turn this upside down and then move this away, correlate it with this. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to do, see, this is where alignment becomes critical. Well, it's always critical, but this is where it becomes more difficult. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move both of these away. We're not doing this side yet, so it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to go 1. Pull it out of alignment there for a second. 2. Now we're going to move these two back, like so. And looks good. See, so these three correlate. So now I'm just going to move this back down. And now we're doing all right. So far, simple stuff with this. 1, 2. Okay? So now I know that, yes, these centers are now correlated with each other. This one also has to be turned upside down. No problem. 1, 2. Take these two layers away. Now again, I'll also point out that there has been no popping with this puzzle, which is surprising. Turn this, 1, 2. This has been pop free. Move this in. And then turn it back. 1, 2. Okay, now we check our work, match all of these edges together, centers together, and it automatically lines up. So now I know I'm doing well. So this is the fun part. This is where the fishing is done, and now I'm just correlating edges together. So I believe this has to be turned upside down too. 1, 2. Pull these two away, and then go 1, 2, and pull these two back, and you can see it correlates nicely. And then move it back without losing our cells. 1, 2. Okay, so this is good. So we can see, just to check our work again, we'll correlate the first 3 layers here of the centers. All of these are good. They fit flush, fits flush. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So now we just have these 4 layers to go. So let's go ahead and move these back into alignment, or out of alignment, however you think of it. Now we just got to do these guys, and it's exactly the same kind of thing. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Now that I have that in place, I have these oriented and I have these positioned where they're supposed to be. My next step actually is to now treat this as a cuboid. I have all of these in the proper layer. I have these in the proper layer. The permutation is not correct, although the orientation is. Right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to treat this like it was a middle layer over here. All of these are in the proper layer, but just not in the proper place. So now I'm going to treat all of these as though they were edges, together as edges, and I have to put the right one into here. Let's take this whole thing, move it up here, and see which part of the center area is it supposed to be. And I'm only worried about this guy here. So I'm going to move this down and exchange it with this. So we have turn. So the pieces can no longer hide from me. They can no longer be too mysterious. So placing the center area is not going to be the hard part. That part is coming, and you'll know exactly what it is when I do it. Okay, so up here is this edge set, which is obviously, for all we know, not reduced. Now I've got to find where this goes. Which one of these middle areas belongs with this? And I can just keep experimenting. I can move this down and see that, nope, this doesn't belong here. I can move this over here. Move this down and see, nope, doesn't belong. Oh, well, it appears that this can go over here. So it appears that this does belong here, as you can see. Now I got to be careful because I've seen in ghost puzzles equivalencies. So I'm going to move this back up. And maybe go ahead and do that and see if this comes down here nicely. So I'm going to move this whole thing down to here. You are, again, this is the fun part because it doesn't require a whole lot of mental gymnastics, but just positioning with the hope and the faith that you can go to the next step. And turn here. Do we like it? Looks good over here and looks pretty good over here. So you can see this edge spans these 2 gaps quite nicely. Now that I've done that, I've got this piece up here. Just find the right one. Let's move this down here and see if it correlates here. And we see it does not. This. So I will keep going. Does it correlate here? Move this down, and we see that it doesn't. Now what I can do now is move this over here. And again, I'm focusing on this centerpiece and see if it correlates with this. So believe it or not, this is not taking a huge amount of thought. Move this down here, and yes, this does correlate with this, which tells me that's where I'm moving it into. Now, I don't know where these go yet. That's going to be part of my cuboid strategy. But in the meantime, I can place my centers and not destroy anything that I've already put in. Turn. 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 And even though something might make sense, the fun thing about ghost puzzles is sometimes, although it should have worked, it should make sense, sometimes it doesn't, until you look at it a different way and realize that that's the only way it could have worked, and turn. Okay, so we're doing well. This is correlating here, so you can see we're creating an entire middle slice along here, and I know it's oriented correctly because I correlated it with the lower layers. Okay, we've got this guy up here. Move this down and see that this correlates here. Almost as though the puzzle is giving up on me and is relinquishing itself a little bit because it's now falling into place. Turn, turn. But the hardest part is yet to come. And that is the part that's making me the most nervous. Can you guess which it is? Turn, turn, and turn. Okay, working our way around. It likes to be next to this. It likes to be next to this. And now we have our final piece to place, or our final. So we take stock in what we've got. In our ghost puzzle, our first entire equatorial region is now done. This is now put in. So orientation, which is the biggest problem with this puzzle, is now solved. And what we have in front of us is a simple process of a cuboid solve, but there is danger lurking ahead. So what I'm going to start doing is start putting things in just on either side of this equatorial region. So what goes here? Well, this is already placed in for us. This is already fine, so we don't have to worry about that. So we're going to go to the next one, which is here, and now we're going to take a look. 1, 2. See if it's just a cross, and the answer is no. It's not just a cross. That doesn't belong over there. So I'm just going to keep tooling around until I find the right one. Now these edges may be in the wrong layer. In other words, the one that belongs here, it may actually be in this layer, but elsewhere. So I have to see if I can't find it and see if it's up here. So I'm just going to simply move this. 1, 2. Something's going to work, but not that one. 1, 2. Keep going. 1, 2, and aha. Finally, we got something. This guy correlates, so this guy can come into here. Now again, with ghost puzzles, I've been led astray before. So the one that went in was this guy here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the corner swap to move this in here. Now here's what we have to bear in mind. Doing this corner swapping here is going to create misplacement in this layer. So I'm going to find a way to get that back so as not to get confused. But that's going to be an old familiar algorithm. The way I'm holding it is making it come out of alignment pretty quickly. 2R. U. 2R. UI. 2R, okay? That puts this here, and you can see this correlates with this here, creates placement parity over here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep these center areas, these edges, close at hand so that I don't lose their placement in conjunction with each other. And this is all fine over here, so now I'm just going to move this out of the way, like so, and I'm just going to keep trying to find others. So this is in over here, move it over here, and this is not in, and this is not in. So I'm going to do that same exercise. I just have to be very sure that I, remember where I'm at and move this back. All right, so I'm just going to go like this. 1, 2. That doesn't correlate here, so I go 1, 2, and I move on. I'm keeping my thumb here so I know not to accidentally move this layer. 1, 2. Aha! We have something that correlates here. 1, 2. That's behind here, so I'm going to take this over here. I'm a little put out because this here matches with this layer too. So what am I to do? Let's do it anyway, see what happens. So we have 2R U. Line it up. 2R UI. 2R. Okay, That did a couple things. It brought this back. You can see this correlates here nicely, but it does not correlate with this. It's not like in this. So that's not where we want it to be. However, what I do want to do is I kind of want to get my centers back. So this belongs here. This doesn't belong, it looks like it would belong here, but not so much because it doesn't correlate with this. So I'm looking for something else that's long like that. But at least I got my equatorial area back. Okay, so what's another one that's long like this? Well, this one's long like that. This one's long like that, but I have to bear in mind it's got to be able to correlate with this. This is a contender, although it's in the wrong layer, so forget about it. I don't have anything here that's long like that in this layer, which means I think it's got to be this guy. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold this in here for now, and I'm going to try to get this one, because this one is will bring this up to here. So I'm just going to do a couple moves, bring this over here. That doesn't correlate, so we move on. 1, 2. Yeah, this correlates over here. 1, 2. So I'm going to move this to here, and I know that this one will come down to here and take this one out. So let's move this down and see if it fits with this one too. This one, rather. So we have 2R U, 2R UI, and 2R. Okay, we're good. We see that this is fine over here and this fits flush over here too. That also brought this one out, which we suspect goes with this guy. So because of that, first thing I'm going to do is move this over to see if our suspicions are correct. Now this is getting really confusing now because there's so many layers that like to try to escape me. Like this one. And if I lose my place even once, it can undo a whole lot of work. So it does correlate. So let's see if it correlates with both, because we spent a lot of work to make sure that the one right next to it is correct. So we move this back, and we quickly and painlessly do 2R U, 2R UI, and 2R, and yes, good. So now we see this whole layer is in. So this whole layer here is in over here. Okay, so where do we go from here? Well, now I'm going to keep correlating layers like that. I can even turn this around and match these centers up and see if all these edges correlate. And bang, I lock this into position, and you can see we got a whole slice of ghost cube coming in with these two layers. These two layers are fine, so I'm going to hold these next to each other. It's not necessary, because that can be realigned later, but there it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the layer just above that, because I know all these are placed correctly. Now, as you know, to do cuboid strategies, we're going to focus on the edges, and I'm going to find two edges that are correct. Okay, now that we have this layer and this layer done, picking it up from here, I'm looking for this over here. Now I'm going to do this cuboid style, which means I'm not going to pay attention to where these centers, which I'm going to call edges, are. I'm going to pay attention to where these corners, which are actually edges, but I'm going to call them corners. See which one of these are in. The only way for me to know that is to correlate them with this layer over here and see what fits flush. I know they're all on the right level, but what about the right place? So this fits over here, this fits over here, this doesn't, and this doesn't, which means these two need to swap. So I'm going to take the two that are in, I'm going to move that over here to the right side. Actually, what I'm going to do, just to make it easier, the left side rather, I'm going to pull that over here, line these up, and now do my adjacent edge swap with these two, corner swap rather, with these two. And that's, I'm going to hold my thumb here to keep my place over here so that I know that I'm moving the right layers. To our U, to our UI, to R. Then we do a UI and a DI just above and below. And then finish it up with a to our UI, to our U, to R. Okay, then this moves back, I suppose. Okay, so now we're going to line these up again. I do a lot of aligning and realigning just to check things out. So these are in, and all the corners should be in. Now it's just a question of centers. These edges over here, we have a little bit of a problem because it's a matter of doing edge swaps, but this is in and this is in, but these two are not. And the problem with that's going to be is that if I do an adjacent edge swap to get these in, I'm going to create placement parity over here, and that's going to be kind of an impossibility. I'm going to have to be able to coordinate that because this will all be in, this will all be in, but this entire section here, these edges and these corners, or actually center and edges, they're going to be flip-flopped. So they're going to be forever out of sync with the top and the bottom over here. So the question is, how did that happen and how can I get out of it? So what exactly is going on to have caused something like that to happen?